All right, well, I'd like to introduce Colin Richards.
Hi. You've seen me before.
You've seen him before.
Use your teacher voice.
Use my teacher voice. Woohoo! He is one of our founding members. So he was just a baby when he started with us.
Yeah,
And he's still the youngest one. And he does amazing ink and graphite work, fantasy-based. He loves. Your genre is very unique. So
That's true.
It is. There's no other way to say it. So without telling you anything more, I give you Colin.
All right. Hey, Noel, can you get me an empty cup? I need some water.
Empty cup.
Hi, everybody. I hope everybody can see all right, and you can see this. But as Noel said, I'm Colin, and I'm here today to give a little inking demonstration, just going over a couple of different techniques and approaches and materials. Thank you very much. And all that kind of fun stuff. So the camera might be a little jiggly, but I hope that's all right. I'm going to fill up a little water pot here. How many of you guys out there, does anybody work with ink or like to do inking or drawing? Marge, all right. Very, very cool. I've been pursuing ink seriously, if that makes sense, as an artist for something like 10 years. For a long time I wanted to be an oil painter and then a watercolor artist and then work with gouache, and I wanted to be a sculptor when I was little. So when I came across doing ink work, I kind of fell in love with it and have grabbed on hard and haven't let go since. I'm largely self-taught, I would say, with this. I went to the Art Institute for a while in Pittsburgh, but we never had any kind of classes really on anything like that. The closest you'd get is drawing, which inking shares a bit with, but there's a little bit of nuance there. But yeah, so I also want this to be kind of interactive, so if you guys have questions or comments, just like throw them out. It's all good. This is more of a conversation than a lecture. But I guess I'll start out softball here with a little bit of like my influences and what got me into that. And when I was a kid, the first one I want to show you is a comic book artist named Bernie Wrightson. And he did the Frankenstein, the book by Mary Shelley from 1860, and he inked his own, just for his own, he inked the entire, like, illustrated the entire story through and through. And these, as a kid, I had these on baseball cards, right? I'd buy artist cards at the supermarket or whatever, and it just blew me away, and I couldn't believe how much, like, texture and detail and just mood and atmosphere he was able to get with just a pen and ink, which it makes two colors. You have black or you have white. You can thin it down to shades of gray, but this is not what he did. This is all just line work. And as a kid, it just completely threw me. I couldn't believe it. And from there, I kind of grabbed on to the fantasy art. I picked up books by Mark Nelson, who does a lot of ink work, comic book type stuff. This will focus. And, you know, I like my monsters. I like aliens. I like all kind of stuff. I have this book of Frank Frazetta with some ink in it, but I brought it because it says Bishak in there. I bought it at a Evans City Library book sale, and I wondered if Kathy sold it years ago.
And she just left.
I'll never know now. That's a shame. Yeah.
Pulling that book out.
Yeah, she's like, I knew it. Mark Schultz, who does ink and graphite and stuff, and yeah, it really became a passion of mine. From there, I moved on to my own stuff, and it's grown over the years. I brought a couple of things of my work. This is my most recent portfolio I just took in for a portfolio review at a convention. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. It's kind of close here. Just big old wizard head, dragon, stuff like that. I don't know, but if anybody wants to look through it or anything, feel free to come up and grab it. You can flip through. I hope you like skeletons. You're going to get a lot of them. That's okay. And then another Prince book I had that has just a mishmash, but there's some other ink stuff in there. But yeah, help yourself, go crazy, grab them both. So the top one has just a mishmash, all kind of stuff in there, but the ink works toward the back. And the other one just has 10 curated pieces I took to a portfolio review, which went pretty well, so that's great. From there, I've been doing conventions for a couple of years now. I think 2014 was my first, where I sell prints and get commissions and talk to people, and that's been lovely. And through that, I've met a lot of good friends. But one of the things I've been doing most recently is my friend Nathan publishes a comic book. So I've been his inker for a while, and this is Zira, Cosmic Queen Ghost Hunter, but I'm right up there because I'm the inker. So we did, I think this was 24 pages of ink work, just craziness, and then it's colored by his spouse, but yeah, all the inks in here were me, so that is 24 11 by 17 full page illustrations that we tried to get done in a month, and it's brutal. So I understand why the guys for like DC and Marvel, they say a good page rate is whatever you're doing, drawing, inking, coloring, whatever part of the process you are, a page a day, and I can't even imagine that workload. Jack Kirby, who is the king of comics, as they called him, back in the 40s, he was putting out comics so much that when he got called up to serve for World War II, he dropped everything for like 3 months before he went off to basic training or whatever, and did nothing all day but produce comics so they could keep putting them out in his absence when he was off fighting the Nazis or whatever, wherever he was. All right, so comics are very cool, and Nathan was kind enough to provide me with an uninked page. I asked him to do this like one-page story where Zira finds herself in front of a gigantic floating space head. This is the stuff we're into, so it's crazy. But I thought we could take a look and do a little bit of inking here and talk about techniques as we go. Something to work on. When I look at a whole page, come on camera, you got this. When I look at a whole page like this, one of the first things I like to do is determine where the blackest blacks are going to be. Once something is full black, there's no going back. That's it.
Did you do those images that we see first?
Right now, this is actually not my work. This is my buddy Nathan, who does the comic. And I'm glad you brought it up because
you just bring it to life.
I bring it to life, yeah. I wanted to talk about that. Both the way I do my own work is very differently than the way I approach inking over somebody else's work. When I'm doing my own work, I'm a lot looser with my pencils. I have an idea of what the inks are going to look like at the end product, as that is the end product. And I give myself a lot more permission to not have fidelity to the lines that are put down. Like, I can go off script. With somebody else's work, my job as an inker is to showcase their art to an extent. So I have to add my own life, my own creativity, my own style to an extent, while also allowing his art to show through. So it's kind of a weird process, especially as an artist. I feel I kind of have to take my ego out of it to an extent. I know I'm part of a chain, a process here, and after pencils are done and inks are done, it'll go to colors, and then they'll letter it and lay it out and stuff. So I'm just one part of this daisy chain. And it's really fun, though. It kind of... What's that?
Are all parts equal?
They are. What's nice about like this, we're friends, so we collaborate on the story and discuss, and he'll be like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this layout? So that's really cool. So it has a collaborative process to it. But yeah, if you're working for like a major publisher or something, you have to be very... Like, you just get it, and you have to make their art shine, and then everybody's going to give them the credit, and nobody cares what you've done, more or less. So it's a weird kind of process here. But we're going to start with this for a little bit, and then I can move into doing some of my own. I'm going to show you what my own process is, how I approach individual drawings that I do. As I said, I kind of look at the whole page and figure out where the blackest blacks are. And being that this is a giant floating space head, I'm thinking that our best bet to start is to lay down a lot of black up in this section right here. I'm going to start with a larger brush, and right now I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star ink. It's a matte India ink, which is really nice. It doesn't have a lot of shine to it. Some inks, when you put it down, they're real glossy. They pick up the light a lot. This tends to absorb a lot more, which I really like. And once we're done with that, we'll put some stars on top of it. The matte aspect of the ink will help them to show up a little better. And as we kind of go through, I figured in real time I'll show you the different tools I use and when I use them. But for here, nice big old brush, just load it up, a lot of ink on there. I'm terrible with my brushes. Most people are like, don't, you only load it to halfway, and I just jam that sucker in the pot. I don't even care. And you just start on there and get the nice.
You might have said this, I might have missed it, but
Yep.
what kind of paper or board are you looking at?
Okay, thank you. I did not. This is actually Bristol board. This right now is it's a Strathmore, but it's set up for comics. That's why it has all these different lines on the edges of it. So you can rule it out really well. There's like little areas for the bleed spaces. So it's really nice to use it that way. And all of the lines are in this non-photo blue. Back in, until relatively recently, until maybe like 30 years ago, with comic books and any other kind of ink stuff they'd produce for magazines or just anything you'd use, posters, the artist would create the image, they'd ink it up, and they'd use what was called a stat cam, which is this giant like room-sized camera, and it was incredibly high contrast. It only picked up dark blacks and turned everything else into nothingness, into whites. If you look at old comic book pages, like the actual art that the creators produce, it's covered in pencil marks and tape and whiteout and all this other crap, and the stat cams wouldn't pick any of it up. But now we use non-photo blue, so when it's scanned, you can just adjust that blue, that soft blue line with a filter in whatever program you use, and it just disappears, which is super nice. But yeah, I like the Bristol board. It's heavy enough that it stays stiff. If you use something thinner, the wetness of the ink, just like with a watercolor, it's going to like melt down more or less, and that's no good. Ink it's kind of like watercolor, but I find it's less wet, if that makes sense. There's less fluidity to it, which allows you to do this kind of stuff on a piece of board. If I was doing watercolor here, I'd have to keep my watercolors pretty dry and they would not flow as much. So cool. So yeah, I just kind of start there, get in some blacks. As I look here, I have to start to make determinations as to the various lines. Like this bit of shading right here, is this going to be a solid black, or am I going to shade it with cross-hatching, stippling, stuff like that? Moving down this guy's crazy space head here.
Colin,
Yeah.
can you move that way just a little bit?
To my left or right, I didn't see.
You're right.
How's that?
Perfect.
Great. Paper towels are your friend. So moving down the head then, I am going to switch to another inking tool. These are quill pens. I've got a whole mess of them in here for different pens for different occasions. Generally speaking, I like to use this guy here. This is a Hunt 102. I know the camera's not picking it up well, but it's got a nice bit of flexibility. You can barely see it. Come on, camera. Yeah. So when it moves, it expands out the tip. But I've got calligraphic pens. I've got weird Japanese manga nibs in here, all kind of stuff. We're going to stick here with the Hunt 102 just for right now. I always keep handy a nice big piece of paper too that I can practice on before I go into my actual line. So once it's loaded up with ink, these are a little tricky. They take a little bit of getting used to, but we'll start over here and just create a little bead and a pull. Yep, come on.
Can you get real fine lines?
You can get very fine lines on this, and that's what I like about them. Different quills have different thicknesses and that. So for instance, if I can get this to, come on, pen. What's that? Rapidograph. No, I use multi-liners as well, but the multi-liners are going to offer a consistent line width. What I like about a quill is that it's got a lot of variable line width. So once I can start thick and then go to a nice thin. I can go thin, maybe. Then these things can be finicky, but once they get going, they're good. Come on, baby, you got this.
So you're creating something that's meant to be reproduced, right? You're not like creating art that hangs on the wall, per se, right?
Yeah, correct, yeah, more or less.
So if you make a mistake, you just use whiteout, or?
Yes, you can do that. I like to keep, so with comic books and anything I do, I aim for both, to have it both as a piece of like fine art and a piece of something I can reproduce. What I found with a lot of people that like comic books, connoisseurs, they like, when they buy the original art, they like the mistakes. Yeah, exactly. They like to see the whiteout. They like to see the tape. They like to see the little notes in the liners that say like, whatever you do. They love seeing that. It's all part of the mystique. It's kind of like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Japanese, I don't know if it's an art form necessarily, but it's when like a pot breaks and then they repair it, but they do it in a way, they melt gold. Yeah, where the fact that it has broken and was, a problem happened is part of the draw of it, and they draw attention to that. And that's what I find a lot of people that love this kind of stuff, they like that. They love seeing that.
Yeah, I was at Stifle Gallery this past weekend, and they have a show going on right now. I guess it's their collection of comic art.
Oh, okay.
And yes, tons of it all over the walls. And I noticed just what you said, a lot of non-repro sketches and notes in the columns and things like that. So
It's something that people, I think they like to feel. Any kind of art is essentially the artist communicating with the audience in some way. And I think that people, especially with comic art, which is seen as so disposable, as you just read a story and then you throw the book away and it's done. I think the people that are really into it like to feel that connection, like they like to see when somebody screws up. They like to see when somebody makes a little sketch in the side or on a sheet of paper to try to figure out a design problem or something. So I think that's something, I don't shy away from that necessarily, as long as the image itself is good. And we live in a beautiful digital age where anything can be fixed in post, so that's handy too. I generally like to pick where my light source is coming from. I'm going to say it's coming from, at least in this panel up here. So we're going to have like this little beam that's coming down his head. This nib is really not my friend tonight. So let's swap it out. Let's see if we can get a little better with this guy. And this should be the same, little firmer here, but we'll see what we can do. And if not, we'll switch over to the brush. And then
The industry is still done in regular.
a lot. Yeah, I think a lot of the people that grew up wanting to do this kind of stuff, they had access to physical materials. And so a lot of people do digital, but I think a lot of people really enjoy the feel of the physical item in your hand and stuff like that.
You're not limited because you're still doing it.
No. At the end of the day, like I said, that page a day rate, however you get it done, at the end of the day, the people that are, the bean counters essentially with deadlines and stuff like that, they don't care how you do it as long as you do it. So
Is the person who does the colorizing afterward, does it scan in and then they color it digitally?
that's pretty much it, yep. Now the way I'm doing things, or the way we're doing things here, is that very traditional method of you have a script, then you have a penciler, then you have an inker, a colorist. There will be some people that do all the art themselves, like they can work digitally. Alex Ross, for instance, he is a tremendous force, and I was lucky enough to see some of his. He paints his comics with gouache. Each page is an entire painting that he's made, and they're incredible to see. I know maybe like 6-7 years ago at the Warhol Museum, they had a gallery of his stuff, and it's impressive that he's doing this, but with painting. But yeah, it's like I said, at the end of the day, as long as you get the work done there, they don't really have much of a preference to how you do it. Let's talk about texture here for a little bit. While I'm going in, as you can see these little horizontal or vertical lines there to do some kind of a shadow or a texture. So we'll put a nice thick line there, and then once you get a line started, it's pretty easy to flare it out. Now for my own art, I use a lot of cross-hatching, which is where like you'd go over these vertical lines again with horizontal and add texture that way. Like I said, for this though, I'm trying to keep to the fidelity for the most part of Nathan's art to showcase his style.
Do you do the cross-hatching with the photograph pens, or do you use the activity with the brush?
No, I do it all kind of stuff. When you guys say rapidograph, you're talking about like a pen, right?
It was the refillable pens that
Okay.
we used to have all different.
Yeah. These are refillable too. But yes, I do use that then. It's not the rapidograph. I don't know if rapidograph, is that is that like the manufacturer, or is that the brand name? Gotcha. Yeah, I use the Copics actually for a couple of different reasons here. And these guys are not doing me any favors tonight. So, but that is okay. As we work our way down, and shadows are going to get a lot deeper under this like eye thing, we're going to switch over to yet another tool, and we're going to use a thinner brush. This is new to me. I've only used it a few times, and it's way too expensive. This is a Winsor & Newton Series 7. It's a Kolinsky Sable brush, which everybody talks about Sable, how good it is, how good it holds. That you want that nice sharp, come on there camera, that nice sharp tip, a little bit of springiness. So we're going to go in with that here for a minute. And this is one that I try to be careful about with my, yep, get the nice lines in there. And we can go under here and try to get this dude's big old head. He just sent me the script for this today while Noelle was speaking. I was checking my email for a second, so I finally know what the hell is happening on this page. But for a couple of days, I was guessing.
Is he a bad guy?
I guess he's a giant space head that is collecting information.
He's just a head.
Yeah, he's just a head. And then he's like, before I kill you, may I ask you a question? And she's like, you just asked me a question, and that causes his head to explode because he didn't realize. So,
So how do you pick up work? Are you like strictly freelance?
I am freelance for now. Yep.
Connections you've made over the years?
Yep. Going to shows has definitely helped, but I also try to get my art out there whenever I can. I was just at a gaming convention in Wisconsin. Long story short, but one of the publishers for role-playing games had a portfolio review. The opportunity to get my work in front of anybody that's working in the industry and has money to pay me, I will do that. So,
Don't you have to have bright light when you're doing that? But I noticed you're in the dark.
yeah.
See those little lines, don't you have to have a bright light to see those fine lines?
It's helpful, but thankfully I can still see them all right. But I can tell as the years start to go by, I'm like, ooh, it's getting harder and harder. I used to be able to do this kind of stuff in like the dark almost. I used to read at night with no lights on and, just in my bed by like whatever moonlight's coming through the window. Oh, I'll read a novel. And now I'm like, no.
Just for a minute, I forgot that my grandmother used to say the same thing when I used to read and not have a lamp on.
Yeah, it's so weird. So we'll get a nice big bold line under this helmet thing. He's apparently not supposed to have a nose, and that's a question I asked Nathan right off the bat when I first saw it. I'm like, this is great, where's his nose at? And he's like, he doesn't have one, he's an alien head, don't worry about it. So, yeah, exactly. I think that's part of the comics industry too, is I tend to do single images, like illustration type work, like you'd find in a book. Like you turn a page and it's just this one boom, big image. And for that, I agonize over like the anatomy of my characters and the lights, and I'm always trying to push myself. But with comics, again, doing that page a day, it's like, just get it out there, So sometimes you have to make a couple of, something has to go by the wayside. But oftentimes that leads to great creativity, I find. I feel people are a lot more creative when there's pressure, like when they have to get creative about how are they going to do this and meet X deadline or whatever.
Well, after you get all that done, how do they print that and make a comic out of it?
So once my section is done, it'll be scanned in. It'll be cleaned up digitally. Stacy colors these with digital tools. So basically, you make how to put this? I don't know how familiar you guys are with like Photoshop and whatnot, but you make a layer that is only black and the white is gone. It's transparent, and then you essentially paint underneath of that. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's more or less the way it's done. Let's just do a couple more things here. We'll get into a couple more tools, and then I will chat a bit about the way I do my own art and the way I approach my own pictures. Does anybody have any questions right now? Anything online or anything as we're going on? Like I said, just throw it out there. You guys are great, though. I love the interactivity.
Normally, how long does that take you?
I'd say a page, depending on what's on it, and this is relatively simple, can take 2 to 4 hours, somewhere in that range, So I see why the guys that do this professionally, it's a full-time job, If you can get out that page a day, a typical comic book is, I think, 22 to 24 pages. So.
Well, way back then, before they had digital, they used the printing press, right?
They would, yeah, they would have. The way it was colored back then, it would be shot with a stat cam, so you only get the black, reproduced, and then people would go in with, If you ever seen newspaper strip, those little dots, if you look closely at like a newspaper comic, you see the colors are made up of dots. Those are called
Registration.
Bend-Aid dots, I believe. But they're basically the CMYK colors and how your dots overlap. Like if you print a blue dot and then a yellow dot on top of it, you'll get green. And so they would basically lay this out on the back end, and I can't imagine how time consuming it would be. So the artist would basically get, like, they would choose like this swatch here, and there would be some kind of a color value that a newspaper or a printer would have. Like they'd be like C59, and then a colorist would know that they have to load up like the dots there, C59. It would print like 2 magenta dots and a blue dot tight together to get this exact color. So I can't imagine what a laborious process that was.
Scanners that were called separators. And they
Oh,
were
yeah?
Screens. And the screens would come out and with the dots actually.
Yeah.
The person who put them together was called a stripper.
Okay.
Because I used to be a stripper.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you were proud to tell people that.
That's right. You had to get them just so to make the certain pattern.
I know that in like Japan you can buy them. I haven't been able to find them here, but they have like Zipatone sheets. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Yeah, it was a way for making texture, but you'd have to like paste it and then cut it out, and then it would be down. I'd love to get some to just play with, but
I'll have to look and see if I have any left.
yeah, if you have some,
It was great, it really was.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, really, I'm flashing back here. Well, that's what Colin pulled out. We were on a Zoom meeting and he pulled out circle templates.
Yeah.
Like the green film circle templates, and I'm like, oh, somebody still uses them.
I'm going to switch into a little bit of the microns here, the multi-liners, and these are, like you were saying, they're refillable. You just pull the ink cartridge out, and then the nibs too are, you can pull the nib out and replace that, which is handy. So this has been my preferred pen for a while, and I've been building up a little collection of them. One thing I will do too is get a little piece of paper to just set my hand on as we go into these little tiny guys over here.
So when you use those, like back in the day, we used to use rapidograph, you know, and if the tip got a little damaged, sometimes it would get that little
It would
bead,
split, yeah.
you know, and you suffer from any of that kind of stuff.
No, these have been great. At least so far. I've been using these for a couple of years now with nothing. But like I said, you can replace the tips. I think a new nib for this is like $2, which is super good. I'm sure there are other more advanced pens out there that I could get, but honestly, for the money, for what I use, like this, it fits my budget, it fits my lifestyle. It's great. So we'll just shore
So
this
do you
up.
usually like check in with someone as a checkpoint to say, hey, is this coming together like you envisioned, or do you just complete the whole thing and then they kind of look at it and have edits to it? Or?
It is a complete thing. What they say with like working in the industry, what they always say is they're not going to hire you unless they trust your ability to do this job. So rather than you constantly being like, is this all right? Is this good? Is this good? Like, they don't have the time for that. They just like get it done. Show us that you can get it done and then do it. And so I just tend to get in there and get to it. When I do my own stuff, I tend to agonize over little details a lot more. With this, I know it's just, like I said, I'm part of the process. And so it's like, if I don't get my end done, then the next person down the line can't do their work, and so on and so forth. And then the book's delayed. And with printing being expensive now, with paper shortages and everything else, it's like, if I hold up, if I'm the holdup, I would feel terrible, you know? So let's add in this guy's thing here. Okay.
Have you done how many books?
So far, I think I've inked for them 3.5, I think. And then I've done comic work where I've started, like I've done the whole thing other than coloring. So the layouts, the drawings, all that stuff as well. A few, and that ended up not working out so well because of the dude was not paying me, and it was a whole mess. So
if two different people ink a book, you could probably tell the difference.
you can actually in the zero right here. There's a short story in the beginning that Nathan, we divided it. It's like a little 6-page. So like I did page 1, 2, and 3, and then he did I do 4 as well? And then he did these, I know that. So there's a little bit of a difference. I tried to hue his style, at least in these, so it all kind of flows as one thing. But I can definitely tell what's mine and what's his, which is kind of interesting.
So when they're doing a book, they want usually the same person to be.
Yep, keep that style. You can use, I've seen in comics used to good effect different styles. Like I've seen when people have like a flashback and a totally different art team will do the flashback segments. And that works well, but if you're just reading a book and you turn the page and you're like, how is the hero going to get out of this? And it's completely different. It like throws you for a loop. I've seen like Art Jam comics, which are kind of fun, where like a totally different team does every single page. So the point of it is the weird art, like that it doesn't match up or whatever. But for the most part, you want to keep the reading consistent. You don't want somebody to go like, oh, why is that different? That's weird. Don't do that. But yeah. So generally speaking, I do, if I'm on a project, I see it to completion. Okay, so we got this head coming along all right here. There's a couple little weird texture lines here. Let's get into one of my favorite things real quick, is putting in these stars. And then I'm going to get into some of my own work here as well. So for stars, what I like to do for outer space, one of my favorite things. I have a selection of, probably seen these in craft stores, but they still work wonderful, gel pens in different sizes. And then this is a Molotow. It is an acrylic paint pen, which works great. But you've kind of got to get a flow on it first. So we'll start with this guy. I'll grab my scrap paper here and I'll pick a black spot and just kind of, come on. You press it in a little bit, shake it, and eventually it'll start to flow really nice. And there's a couple of different ways I like to do this. One of them is, do you guys know what a frisket is? Have you heard that term? So what I would do is I would cut out a piece of like tracing paper, or they even sell liquid frisket, and I basically cover this guy's head with it, and then stuff won't get on it. But for our purposes today, I'm just going to throw this down like that, and we are just going to try to be careful, and I'll rip that off. What I can do is then get a nice bead of this white going, and just kind of start laying it down. Get that kind of natural look. This guy is running out of juice. When I'm done throwing that down like that, come on, baby. It's easy enough to go in, and that should work for now. Just a little bit goes a long way. And then I can kind of highlight and put in some bigger. Oh, you're gonna do this to me, aren't you? Yep, it's dripping out. Big drip coming out. And just highlight some little planets and whatnot. I like to kind of flick it first with my thumb there to give it that nice organic look. I could try to dot all of these stars in, but humans have this weird way of making patterns out of things, even if they don't try to, and you kind of want it to look really random. And I've done this too for texture with the black as well. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, you can barely see the little flicks I had made on the camera there, not showing up super well, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I like it when it has kind of an organic like vibe to it. Little flicks and specks and all that kind of stuff, so. Let me put in the dude's lips and then we'll switch it out. So I'll take my brush for that again. Nice line. And let's do this guy's big old lip. Oh, come on. Let's see if I can get it nice and thin here. And I'm always kind of turning the paper a lot. Get this weird, there's a lot of shadow there, so I can do a nice dark line. There we go. And these little bits here, I'm not sure, what do you guys think? Should they be solid black or should I put in a little bit of line work for these little areas? What do you think? Nobody, don't answer at once. I'll tell you what, I will get a better brush, or not a brush, a pen. I'll put in just a little bit of stapling here so I can just kind of tap it in like that. Add a little bit of a weird texture to it. He's a big alien head, so he can be super weird, and that's fine. All right, that's good. That looks good for this little bit here. I just wanted to show you kind of how I approach doing comic work, which I've been having a lot of fun with. Let me then go into kind of how I do my own stuff. If you guys have looked at those books, you know my stuff's more of like a tableau or a splash page or a single illustration as opposed to a panel. What I brought in here today to show you is something I put away in a drawer for a couple of years because I didn't like it, but I kind of wanted to show you my process. And this is this like undersea mermaid, Atlantis, and the diver, and he's giving her a pearl, all kinds of fun oceany stuff. What I do is I draw, I sketch so many times. Then I do it on a piece of paper at the size it's going to be, which is 11 by 14. I then go in and take the best elements, or at least the most prominent, and trace them. Once it's traced onto tracing paper, I transfer it. I put a ton of graphite on the back, lay it out on my paper, and then go over it again, and it comes out like this. And then I started inking over top. Now this, I don't know why, the inks just didn't quite, something about it didn't quite work for me. So I set it aside for a while, but it's something I've always wanted to revisit. And what's nice is that I have working that way, I have the transfer paper. I could always just get a new 11 by 14, trace around it, and then it's ready to start up. But these I had started doing with entirely with the pens here. And so, like I said, it gives a nice consistent line, which is great for getting all these little tiny details in there and stuff. I love tiny details, so I'm a big fan. But when I started to get up to the top, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to continue with like the light and the shadow. You know, if you're doing any kind of painting or illustration or whatever, it's like you always got to be aware of where your light source is coming from. And knowing it's coming from this pearl and coming from above, and I did not know how this was going to end up. But something I've always wanted to kind of revisit. So I just wanted to kind of show you that part of my process real quick.
Where do you get, is that strictly from your imagination, or do you have references from body position?
It's mostly from my imagination, but I will occasionally be like to my wife, like, do this with your hand or something. Or I'll do that for myself. I have tons of pictures on my laptop of me going like, "Arr!" Stuff like that. So I try to do life drawing when I can, or look at images online and study from, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the books of like art models that you can get in different poses. That way, then when I go into a drawing, I don't have to use reference. So the more you know off the bat, the better or easier it is, I find. Frazetta, one of my favorites, he never used reference, and you can tell sometimes, but the images are still very compelling. Like, the realism isn't necessarily the focal point of it. It's more the imagination, and that's okay. But I like to have I like to hew closer to like a realistic look. So let's get a
Permanent,
what's that?
permanent ink.
Oh yeah, yep. If this splashes or gets on anything, it's not. It's barely coming out. Yeah. So I thought we could do a small drawing here today. What do you guys want to draw? What's fun? Someone throw some out to me. A shark. Did I hear shark? Okay, shark. Great. Let's do a shark. So, generally speaking, I just start with nice circles, and then I don't know, just whatever kind of comes to me. Normally I'd sketch all this stuff out. It's been a while since I've drawn a shark. What's that? I would like to finish it up. I'd love to color it with like watercolors or something, but I generally tend to leave it black and white. I like the look of a black and white image. I think that's really cool to me, so I tend not to color them as much, but I think that would be fun to do. I've got a number of different like watercolor kits. Like the Dr. P.H. Martin's is really good. I also have different colored, where did I go? I also have different colored inks that we can play around with. And some of these are acrylic inks. Like this is a super deep turquoise here, which would be a lot of fun. This is a metallic. This is a shiny metallic iridescent copper ink, which is ink and acrylic paint kind of mixed together. So really fun stuff that you can use. I love this guy. Oh, this is watercolor anyway, but I love that color there. So yeah, we can play around with all of that. One thing that I haven't done as much of as I'd like is when you water your inks down and do an ink wash, which is a little closer to a watercolor painting. But so there we go, that's a shark. Let's have him, I don't know, arms up, he's happy, he's excited to be a shark. Do sharks have tongues? Does anybody know? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Do they have tongues? Yeah, okay, all right, he's got a tongue in there. Good, good. I don't know, that's my shark. It's not very good, but that's okay. I'm gonna go in to start with, again with the blacks. I've got a brush pen here that I can use to just kind of start throwing it in, make this black like a doll's eye. That'd be good. And then from there, I will just go through a little bit of all of it. Use some of this.
They do have tongues.
Did you look it up?
Yeah.
What's a shark's tongue look like? Did you ever see a penguin's mouth? Did you ever see the inside of a penguin? Look it up, Vicky, right now. You'll love it. You'll thank me. Penguins have a series of incredibly sharp spikes inside their mouths on the sides and the top and the tongue that point backwards, so fish can't wriggle out of their mouth. So a penguin looks cute, but their mouth is filled with hideous spikes. So yeah, so good times. Do you know a duck's tongue is covered in spikes? Does anybody know that? Yeah.
Yes, I've been bitten.
You've been bitten by a duck?
Yeah.
My wife got chased by a goose when she was a girl.
They are, they're vicious.
Gooses.
Gooses? Yeah, my wife got chased by a goose, I was saying, when she was a kid.
Okay, yeah, they're terrible.
I love a waterfowl, man. Don't mess with them.
Do you write stories to go with your drawings?
I tend not to. Like, Boris Vallejo, he once said of when he does drawings, this might be a bit of a tangent, that he likes to draw the moment right before an action happens. So like he'll draw a dude with an axe about to fight something, and instead of drawing the guy swinging and cutting this thing's head off, he's drawing like that moment right before the combat begins. And I love that because that allows the viewer's imagination to write the story. Like you just kind of set it up and they knock it down. And I love that. I love people to kind of, I don't know if interpret the work is the right word, but I love when people kind of can come out and say like, oh, well, I think this is happening or this is going to happen. Or I think the imagination's the most powerful, like, a tool an artist can use. Like the viewer's imagination is one of the most powerful tools an artist can utilize, if that makes sense. But that being said, I do love my stories and I do love illustrating for like other people. I've done a couple of book covers for these ghost stories, which are fun. They're kind of enigmatic, but at the same time, yeah, there is a story to go along with that particular image. I just don't tend to write my own. Plus, as my wife will tell you, I am the world's worst writer. For all the art that I got in my blood and skill and whatever, I did not get writing as a thing. I tend to be, I tend not to do that very well. Well, that's okay. That's okay. I like to let the art speak for me.
Colin, is that a brush or a pro quill that you're using?
This is a quill I'm using right now. And if you haven't noticed, I don't know what a shark looks like off the top of my head, so.
He's cute. He's too cute for a shark.
He is a little cute. He's like, hi. He's coming out of the water. He's just happy to be living his shark life.
See the sun.
Yep. Gray skies are going to clear up, put on a happy face. I don't know. Maybe there's like a fisherman here who's like, oh, God. Let's do that. Do a little silhouette of a fisherman with a little cap. He's like, oh my gosh. I don't know, little silhouette here. Yeah, that's why this guy's so surprised. Hold on. He's got, let's give him a rod here. And then maybe like a little yoink, and then a little hook right there. He's caught a big one today. I can go in and kind of make this dock. Now this is kind of a sketchy for me, but it's fun. It's good practice.
Aside from like fantasy and comic, do you do other types of things?
I do. I don't have any examples with me. I might see if there's some on the computer, but I also do like home portraits in ink. I've done people's houses. I've done a boat for somebody as a gift, commission work, but it was a gift for the owner of the boat. Let's see. But I've done graphic logo work, kind of. I start there and move on. So usually a lot of stuff starts with the ink. I love it, and then I can digitally manipulate it later. I'll bring up a couple examples here on the computer I can show you guys. of some recent things I've been doing, but it's kind of weird too because a lot of the stuff I've been commissioned to do lately has been like, how do I put this? Not in the fine art category. So I do the image, but then it's so manipulated and adjusted and changed into a different product that it's almost unrecognizable as like a drawing I did. But it's kind of fascinating in that way. Like I said, a lot of times I like to take my ego kind of out of it. Like it's all about that end product, you know? Okay, so we got our shark. He's shooting out of the water there. Maybe we can add in with the brush here a little bit of, where did you go, brush? I don't know. We'll grab this brush. Like water churning. And then from there we can go in and play around with a little bit of here, this like turquoise ink. And this is very, well, there's going to be a little black in there. You can get that nice turquoise vibe. Sharks are turquoise, right? I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. Turquoise, yeah, turquoise shark, it fits.
It's reflecting the water.
Exactly, thank you. 90% of art is being able to bullshit your way through something, so that's like perfect. Yeah, it's reflecting the water. When they, did you guys ever see King Kong, like from 1933? Well, Willis O'Brien was so upset when he animated King Kong that he would, stop motion. He'd move the puppet of Kong, take a picture, move it, take a picture, move it, take a picture. And the one thing he could never figure out how to do was get his fingerprints like off it. The little hairs on King Kong would move around in shot to shot. And so he was so upset, he's like, you can see all these hairs wiggling around and moving. Well, the first reviewer is like, the special effects are incredible in this movie. You can see King Kong's fur bristling as he gets mad. And Willis O'Brien was like, yes, exactly, correct. So there's no mistakes, just happy accidents, right? What's up?
Godzilla versus the old movies.
Yeah. Wait, what are you asking?
Godzilla versus, what was his arch enemy?
He had a ton. King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan.
No, the old one.
Yeah, those were the okay. Godzilla raids again. Godzilla versus King Kong. Godzilla versus Mothra.
Japanese version.
That is the Japanese version. Gojira. Yeah. Gojira. Yes, Godzilla raids again, or in America, Gigantus the Fire Monster. Godzilla versus King Kong, Godzilla versus Mothra, or in America, Godzilla versus the Thing. Yeah. Then Godzilla versus Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Ghidorah, King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah, three-headed dragon from outer space. Okay. I have so many Godzilla movies. I have actually all of them. Mothra, yeah.
Which is the one with the two little girls?
Yeah, that's Mothra.
That's that one.
They're from Infant Island. Ibera, the horror from the deep, is a giant shrimp. All right. So, I mean, more or less, that's pretty much it with the inking. I think I've shown the tools. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
Is Captain America still alive?
In the comics, he is, yeah.
Okay, because I thought they killed him off.
They did. Everybody's died at least once. He came back. Oh, yeah. Yep. Are you kidding me? Like, Everybody gets killed, everybody comes back. Batman died and traveled back in time to caveman times. And then his, Dick Grayson, who was Robin, became Batman, and then Batman's son was his Robin. And then Bruce Wayne had to travel through time from caveman times to come back. They always figure it out, even if it's the dumbest thing you can imagine. Superman died and he came back with lightning powers, and he had to fight a robot version of himself. So it is all good. Little bit of yellow, why not? I don't know, guys. This shark is not looking super good, but that's okay. They can't all be winners. I think we're almost out of time, so I guess I can show you a couple of my house pictures here on the computer, but other than that, throw out any questions you have, anything you want to ask about or discuss, or even if it's not related to inking. I love your Captain America question. That was a good one. I appreciate that, Marge.
Would like to answer.
Yeah, I do, yeah. Get me talking about superheroes.
Lost track of Captain America.
He came back, there was a big controversial storyline where it turned out that there was a reality warper that made him work for Hydra, who's essentially Nazis. So Captain America was a Nazi for a brief amount of time. Yeah, people did not like that, and rightly so. It was really bad. I don't know.
What was created before World War II? Or
during World War II, yeah. There's a famous cover of him punching Hitler. It's really good. What's that?
Do you have a favorite Godzilla movie?
Ooh, I like Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, where the aliens that look like they're from the band Devo come and abduct Godzilla and Anguirus and take them to the planet X to fight King Ghidorah, and then they brainwash them all. That's a good one.
That's older.
Yeah, that's from the 60s. That has the first American guy in a Godzilla movie, Nick Adams, famous actor, and the rumor is that he was having an affair with Elvis Presley on the set of Blue Hawaii. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, Elvis, he's a hunk of burning love. All right, so let me move some of this. But yeah, you can do a lot with ink. Let me see if I can find it in my very messy files here. Is that showing up? Yeah. And we'll go to...
So how are you also like a web person? Where did you pick up that worksheet?
I like to have skills. When I first was doing this, and when I was Cranberry Artist Network, when I was first doing my own website and stuff, I had to learn how to build a website, so I had to learn how to do HTML. And then Maria, my wife, was like, "You're an idiot, just buy Wix," and I did that. And so I like to have a lot of skills, and I like to keep up with technology as much as I can. Because I feel like that keeps you in the, I don't know, it keeps you in the know. It keeps you being able to work and do stuff. Let's see if I have any. These are older. I wish I knew where the new ones were, but this was just a simple picture of my wife's father's old garage before they tore it down. Done in ink. I think this, yeah, that's colored, that's marker, that's pencil. This was my father-in-law's home from a couple of years back, so I think I've gotten better since then. It's a lot of, I'm like a very mathy guy. I love being like, okay, this window is exactly 1/3 of the way, and I like that a lot.
It's very different from your other art, which is really organic.
Yeah, I like to do it all, but yeah, I've done so much stuff here. Let's see.
Lineup does it with sense because you see things in black and white so well.
I'd love to do woodcut. It's just another thing that I'd love to do, but I don't have the time or the energy to do it. Let's see. That was done in pencil. This is an illustration I did for a dude of him surrounded by all his horror icons, which I did a few years ago. But this was all done in ink and then with marker on top, which was a lot of fun. So let's see here. I don't have the images of that. Why don't I have the images of that? Boat. I don't know where some of the images went. So that's a boat I did for a client. I guess they own this boat and it's like luxury vacations. Like you can sleep on it and they pick you up in like DC and drive you on that boat to the Caribbean, and they have a cook that lives on the boat to make you stuff every morning. That sounds lovely.
Paid with the trip.
What's that?
You should have been paid with the
I should have been, but no, they gave me money, which is, yeah, I don't know. So a couple things. I did this one for my dad a while back. He worked on those when he was in the Navy, so fun stuff. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions or anything, otherwise that's it. Like I say in all my videos online, I don't know how to end this thing, so we're done. I don't know. We're done. Thank you. That was fun, you guys.
Thanks everybody for coming tonight. Make sure that you start working for the martinis. Get your best work ready.
Softball pitch, no pressure, but if anybody's interested, I have a couple of those issues of Zero for sale for $5. But again, I will not be offended if none of them sell. It's all good.